On a colony world named Varelli's 9, where the sky burned crimson every dusk and the wind carried static like whispers from dead stars, Dale Kerr lived alone. His home was a rusted prefab unit on the edge of Dead Zone Alpha, a place even scavengers avoided. The ground there cracked like old bone, and nothing green grew without help. Dale liked it that way. Quiet, empty, safe. He had been a Marine once, part of the United Earth Defense Corps, but that life ended years ago during the Keswick betrayal, a battle no one talked about anymore. After that, he vanished into the outer rim, trading his rifle for silence and his rank for solitude. Now he fixed broken drones for credits, drank recycled water, and watched the twin moons chase each other across the blood-red sky. Tonight, the storm came early. Not rain. Varelli's 9 hadn't seen real rain in decades, but a plasma storm, one of the worst in months. Jagged bolts of ionized gas split the horizon, and the air hummed with raw energy. Comms were down. Power flickered. Even the local fauna burrowed deep. Dale sat at his workbench, calibrating a sensor array when the knock came. Soft. Hesitant. Almost lost beneath the storm's roar. He froze. No one came here. No one ever came here. The knock came again. 3 light taps, like someone testing if the door was real. Dale set down his tools. His pulse thumped, but his hands stayed steady. Old instincts woke. He moved to the wall panel, activated the external cam. The screen flickered through static before clearing. A woman stood outside. She was slight, wrapped in a thermal cloak patched with what looked like ship fabric and old insulation. Her hood was up, but he could see the curve of her cheek, pale as moonstone. Her boots were worn, her stance tired. Behind her, shadows shifted in the storm, but nothing clear. Dale didn't open the door. He keyed the external speaker. "State your business." Her voice came through thin and quiet like dry leaves skimming stone. "I can cook. I can clean. I can be quiet." She paused. Then softer. "Please," Dale frowned. It wasn't a request for help. It was an offer. Strange, desperate, dangerous. He scanned the area again. Still something moved behind her. A shape too large to be human, low to the ground, eyes catching the storm's glow like twin embers. "Who's with you?" he asked. "Just Orion," she said. "He won't hurt you. Not unless you hurt me." Dale exhaled. He'd heard stories. Rumors from freighter pilots and black market traders. Tales of elf bloods. Humans with ancient DNA, slender frames, pointed ears hidden under hoods, eyes that saw in spectra no normal person could. Some said they could talk to animals. Others claimed they sang stars to sleep. Most called it myth. Dale had stopped believing in myths after Keswick, but the figure behind her, that wasn't myth. That was real, and big. He hesitated. Letting anyone in broke his only rule. But turning her away in this storm meant death, and if she was lying, he could handle one woman, maybe even whatever pet she dragged through the dust. With a hiss of hydraulics, the door slid open 3 inches, just enough to speak through. "You step inside, you follow my rules," he said. "No sudden moves, no tech. No weapons." "I have none," she replied, "and the Orion, he stays outside unless I call." Dale studied her. Her hands were empty. Her posture open, not defensive. No tremor, no fear, just exhaustion. He opened the door fully. Cold air rushed in, carrying the scent of ozone and burnt metal. She stepped inside quickly, pulling her hood back just enough to reveal sharp cheekbones, silver blonde hair tied in a loose braid, and eyes the color of forest moss after rain. Her ears, yes, slightly tapered, peeked through strands of hair. Not myth. Real. She turned and whispered something in a language that sounded like wind through crystal chimes. From the darkness, a low rumble answered. Then, slowly, a creature emerged. It stood taller than Dale's shoulder, longer than his workbench, covered in scales that shimmered between black and deep red depending on the light. Its wings were folded tight against its body, leathery and veined with gold. Eyes like molten amber locked onto Dale, unblinking. Claws dug into the permacrete without sound. "Orion," she said gently, placing a hand on its snout. "Stay." The dragon lowered its head, huffing warm steam into the cold air. It circled the prefab once, then settled just beyond the porch light, curling around the structure like a living wall. Dale shut the door. Silence stretched. "Name's Lila," she said. still standing near the entrance, careful not to touch anything. No last name. Just Lila. Dale, he replied. You're not from around here. No. I've been moving. For a long time. Why stop here because you're alone? Because your signal's dark? Because you don't ask questions? He almost smiled. Almost. You hungry? He asked. She nodded once. He pointed to the small kitchenette. There's protein paste in the drawer. Water's filtered. She didn't move toward it. Instead, she looked at the mess on his counter. Burnt circuits, spilled oil, empty ration tins. If you let me, she said, I'll make something better. Dale raised an eyebrow. With what? She reached into a pouch at her belt and pulled out a small cloth bundle. Unwrapping it revealed dried herbs, a pinch of crystalline salt, and something that looked like powdered root. I carry what I need. He watched as she moved to the sink, washed her hands with deliberate care, then filled a pot with water. She worked without noise, without hurry. In minutes, a scent filled the room, warm, earthy, unfamiliar, but comforting, like something from a memory he'd forgotten. While she cooked, Dale kept his distance, leaning against the far wall, arms crossed. Orion's presence outside made the air feel heavier, charged, but Leela seemed calm, focused. That thing's a dragon, Dale finally said. Yes, she replied, stirring the pot. He's been with me since I was 6. Dragons aren't real. They were forgotten. Not gone, he didn't argue. The evidence was curled around his house. The stew simmered. She ladled 2 bowls, set one on the table, and stepped back, hands folded. It's safe. I swear. Dale approached slowly. He sniffed, tasted. Warmth spread through his chest. Real food, not paste. Flavors layered like music, how he asked. My people knew how to grow things in dead soil, how to pull nutrients from air and ash. We remembered what others lost, and your people, she looked down. They're gone now. He didn't press, he ate. And for the first time in years, the prefab didn't feel like a bunker. It felt like a room, a place where someone else existed. After dinner, she cleaned without being asked. Wiped the counter, stacked the bowls, swept the floor, all in silence. When she finished, she stood by the window watching Orion through the reinforced glass. He's guarding us, she said. Why would anyone come here? They always find me eventually. Dale stiffened, who she turned, her green eyes meeting his. People who think I'm property, who want what I am, who want Orion. You're just a woman. To you, maybe. To them, I'm a key, a weapon, a relic. Dale thought of the syndicate ships he'd seen in port. Black hulls, no flags, crews with neural implants and cold eyes, slavers, collectors, worse. You can stay tonight, he said, but tomorrow you move on. She nodded as if she expected it. Thank you. She didn't ask for a bed. Instead, she sat on the floor near the door, back against the wall, knees drawn up. Orion shifted outside, letting out a soft chuff as if checking on her. Dale went to his cot but didn't sleep. He watched her through the dim light. She didn't fidget, didn't sigh, just sat, eyes half closed, breathing slow and even. Hours passed. The storm faded. The sky turned deep violet. Then a sound, not from outside but from her. A hum. Low, wordless, vibrating in the air like a tuning fork. The lights flickered. The metal walls seemed to sigh. Dale sat up. What was that? Just a lullaby, she whispered. To calm the storm in Orion's heart. He didn't understand. But something in that sound made the hairs on his arms rise. Not in fear, but in awe. When dawn came, gray and thin, Dale expected her to be gone. But she was still there, eyes open, watching the sunrise through the window. You said I had to leave today, she said softly. He looked at her, then at the door. Then at the dragon still curled outside, now blinking in the pale light. Eat breakfast first, he said. And just like that, the rule broke. He didn't know it yet. But his life had already changed. Days passed. Lila stayed. Dale didn't ask her to leave again. She kept her word. She cooked meals that tasted like childhood. Warm bread from powdered yeast, stews with spices that bloomed on the tongue, even something sweet from dried fruit and honey she said she'd carried for months. She cleaned without being told, mended his torn jacket with neat stitches and fixed the leak in the roof using resin. She coaxed from a dead shrub outside. She never entered his room, never touched his weapons, never raised her voice. Orion remained outside, a silent sentinel. He sunned himself on the cracked permacrete by day and curled around the prefab at night. his breath a low rumble that blended with the wind. Dale watched him closely. The dragon didn't eat local wildlife, didn't hunt. Lila brought him food, dried meat wrapped in waxed cloth, strange tubers that glowed faintly in the dark. Orion ate slowly, almost reverently, always waiting for Lila to offer it. The settlement 10 clicks east, called Bramble Hollow, began to whisper. Freighters came less often now. When they did, their pilots spoke in hushed tones about off-worlders in black armor asking questions. They showed hollow images of a woman with silver hair and pointed ears. A reward was offered, a large one. No one admitted to seeing her, but eyes grew sharper, voices quieter. Dale heard it all during his weekly supply run. He kept his head down, bought his parts and rations, and left fast. But the rumors stuck in his mind like burrs. Back home, Lila seemed unaware, or perhaps she chose not to speak of it. She spent her mornings tending a small patch of soil behind the prefab, planting seeds that shouldn't grow in Varelli's 9's dead dirt. Yet tiny green shoots appeared within days. She watered them with dew she collected at dawn, humming as she worked. One evening, while Dale repaired a broken comms relay, he noticed her flinch. Not from pain, from sound. A high-pitched whine, barely audible, came from the relay as it powered up. Lila pressed her palms to her temples, eyes squeezed shut. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded quickly, forcing calm. "Just sensitive ears." He turned off the device. The whine stopped. She exhaled, shoulders relaxing. Dale remembered old intel briefings. Elf bloods had enhanced senses. Some could hear radio waves. Others saw heat like snakes. He'd thought it exaggeration. Now he wasn't so sure. That night he woke to a sound he couldn't place. Not wind, not Orion. It was a melody, soft, wordless, rising and falling like tides. He followed it to the back door. Lila stood in the moonlight, barefoot in the dirt, hands resting on Orion's massive head. The dragon's eyes were closed, his sides rising and falling slowly. She sang to him in that same crystalline language. Notes that shimmered in the air, bending light around her like a halo. Dale stayed hidden, watching. The song lasted only a minute. When it ended, Orion opened his eyes and nuzzled her gently, a sound like distant thunder rumbling in his chest. She turned, as if sensing him, but didn't seem surprised. "He dreams of fire," she said quietly. "I help him remember it's not always for burning." Dale stepped forward. "You're not just hiding, are you?" She looked at him for a long moment, then shook her head. "No. Who are you really?" She walked toward him, stopping a few feet away. The moons cast silver across her face. "My people called themselves the Star Weavers. We weren't elves. Not really. Just humans. Changed long ago. Maybe by ancient tech. Maybe by something older. We learned to listen to the silence between stars, to shape sound into shield or sword, to bond with creatures others thought were legends, dragons among others. Orion's kind were once Sky Kings. They carried riders across galaxies. But when the Great Silence came, the time when humans forgot the old ways, they went into hiding. Deep caves, dead planets, waiting. For what? For someone to remember?" Dale frowned. "And you're the last heir. The last who can still sing the old songs. The Syndicate found my enclave 3 years ago. They took my sisters, my mother. They wanted to study us, to weaponize us. I escaped with Orion. We've been running since." He studied her. No anger in her voice, just sorrow. "And resolve. Why tell me now? Because you've been kind. And because they're close." As if on cue, Orion lifted his head, nostrils flaring. A low growl rolled from his throat. Dale's hand went to the pistol at his hip. "How close? Close enough to scan the sector," she said. "They use biotrackers, tuned to our DNA. I've masked it as best I can, but the storm damaged my dampeners." Dale cursed under his breath. He'd seen what the Syndicate did to specimens. Labs with glass walls. "Mine's broken for data. We need to move," he said. "No," she replied. "Running won't work this time. They'll burn the whole zone to smoke me out." "Then what?" She looked at Orion, then back at Dale. "I need your help. Not to hide. To fight." He laughed, sharp and short. "You think I can take on a Syndicate strike team, not alone. But you know this world. You know tactics. And you have something they don't expect." "What's that?" "A human who believes in us." Dale fell silent. He thought of Keswick. The betrayal, the screams, the orders he followed that cost good people their lives. He'd sworn never to fight for anyone again. But this wasn't about orders. This was about a woman who cooked his meals, fixed his roof, and sang dragons to sleep. "What do you need?" he asked. She led him inside and unrolled a thin sheet of polymer from her pack. It glowed faintly, showing a map of the region. "There's a canyon 10 clicks west, narrow, shielded by magnetic rock. Their scanners can't penetrate it well. If we lure them there, I can use the acoustics. The walls will amplify my voice. I can disrupt their neural implants, blind their drones, and Orion, he'll handle the rest." Dale studied the map. It was risky, suicidal even, but staying here was worse. "All right," he said, "but we do it my way. Traps first. Misdirection. I'll rig decoys with heat signatures. Draw them in slow." She nodded. "Thank you." Over the next 2 days, they prepared. Dale buried sonic mines, old military tech that emitted disorienting frequencies. He strung wire sensors across likely approach paths. Lila wove vines and scrap metal into camouflage nets that shimmered oddly, bending light just enough to hide movement. At night, she practiced her songs. Dale listened, learning which tones made metal vibrate, which made dust rise in spirals. He began to understand her voice wasn't magic. It was physics. Precision. Control. One afternoon, while testing a trap, Dale asked, "Why did you come to me that night?" She paused, hands on a tripwire. "Because your door was the only one not locked by fear." He didn't answer, but something in his chest loosened. On the third morning, the sky darkened, not from storm, but from ships. 3 black skiffs descended beyond the ridge, silent and sleek, their hulls absorbing light. No markings, no comms, just death in polished armor. Dale activated his decoy array. False heat signatures blinked to life near the eastern ridge. As expected, 2 skiffs veered that way, but the third hovered directly above the prefab. Lila's face went pale. "They know." Orion rose, wings spreading wide, a warning growl shaking the ground. Dale grabbed his rifle. "Go to the canyon. I'll hold them here." "No," she said firmly. "Together." Before he could argue, a drone zipped over the roof. A small insect-like machine with a red lens. It scanned the yard, then locked onto Lila. Alarm blared from the drone. It fired a tracer bolt. Orion moved faster than thought. A gout of flame erupted from his maw, engulfing the drone in white-hot fire. The blast shook the prefab. The drone fell, melted into slag. But the damage was done. The skiff above pivoted sharply. Hatches opened. Figures dropped. 6 of them, clad in black neural armor. Visors glowing faint blue. "Syndicate hunters run," Dale shouted. Lila didn't run. She stepped forward, placed a hand on Orion's neck, and took a deep breath. Then she sang. Not a lullaby this time. A sharp, piercing note that cracked the air like glass. The hunters staggered. One clutched his helmet, screaming. Their armor flickered, systems glitching. Orion charged. Flame and claw met armor and steel. The battle was chaos. Fire lighting the dust, shouts cut short, metal screeching. Dale fired precise shots, taking out knees, joints, sensors. He covered Lila as she moved, voice weaving through the fight like a blade. But one hunter broke free. He lunged at Lila with a neural prod, a weapon that could fry her mind in seconds. Dale tackled him. They rolled in the dirt, fists flying. The hunter was strong, augmented, but Dale was angry, and he remembered Keswick. He won. Panting, he looked up. The yard was silent. Orion stood over the last hunter, teeth bared. Lila knelt beside a fallen syndicate drone, pulling a small device from its core. "Tracker," she said. "They'll send more." Dale wiped blood from his lip. "Then we go. Now." They gathered what they could, food, water, Lila's seed pouch, Dale's weapons. Orion carried their gear in a sling across his chest. As they left the prefab behind, Lila looked back once. "I'm sorry," she said. "For what? For bringing this to your door?" Dale shook his head. "You didn't bring it." "They did, and maybe it's time someone stood in their way." They walked toward the canyon as the sun set, casting long shadows. Orion flew low overhead, scanning the horizon. Dale didn't know if they'd survive, but for the first time in years he didn't feel alone, and that was enough. They reached the canyon by nightfall. It cut through the land like a scar, narrow at the top, wide at the base, walls layered in black magnetic stone that hummed faintly when touched. Dale had been here once during his Marine days, mapping escape routes. Now it felt like fate. Lila moved quickly, scanning the rock faces with her eyes half closed as if listening. Orion landed softly behind them, wings folding with a whisper of leather and scale. He snorted, steam curling from his nostrils, and paced the canyon floor like a caged storm. "This place sings," she said. "The rock holds sound. It remembers." Dale set up his gear near the eastern wall. He planted sonic mines along the entrance, wired them to a remote trigger. Then he strung thin filaments between boulders, tripwires linked to flash charges. Not enough to kill, but enough to blind and disorient. "They'll come in force now," he said, wiping sweat from his brow. "That skiff got a signal out before Orion burned it." Lila nodded. She knelt in the dust and pressed her palms flat against the ground. Her lips moved silently. After a moment, the air around her shimmered and the dust rose in slow spirals, forming faint patterns, like ripples in water. "What are you doing?" Dale asked. "Tuning the space," she replied. "I need the canyon to carry my voice without breaking it. If I sing too loud here, the echoes could shatter my own mind." He watched, fascinated. This wasn't magic. It was something deeper: resonance, frequency, intention. She was an engineer of sound. They worked through the night. Dale built false trails leading away from the canyon, scattering heat-emitting scrap to mimic body signatures. Lila wove vines and dried reeds into acoustic baffles, hanging them from overhangs to shape the flow of sound. Orion stayed alert, head swiveling at every distant hum. Once he growled low and deep, eyes fixed on the southern ridge. "They're watching," Lila whispered. "Let them," Dale said. "We want them to see us. Just not all of us." By dawn they were ready. The sun rose red and heavy, casting long shadows across the canyon mouth. Silence hung thick, broken only by the wind scraping stone. Then the hum began. Not one ship. 3. Sleek, black, silent as death. They hovered at the canyon's edge, scanning. Drones zipped ahead, red lenses sweeping the ground. Dale triggered the first decoy, a heat pad buried near a dry creek bed. One skiff peeled off, dropping hunters into the false trail. "Good." The other two held position. Then, a voice boomed from above, amplified and cold. "Lila of the Starweavers, you are surrounded. Surrender. Your dragon will be spared." Lila didn't answer. She stood in the center of the canyon, eyes closed, breathing slow. Dale crouched behind a boulder, rifle ready. "They're trying to draw you out." "I know," she said. "But they don't know Orion." As if summoned, the dragon lifted his head and unleashed a roar, not loud but deep, vibrating through the rock like a drum beat. The drones stuttered midair. One crashed into the wall. The syndicate responded fast. Hunters rappelled down the canyon walls, armor gleaming. More poured in from the entrance, forming a half circle. At their center walked a figure taller than the rest, clad in silver-black armor etched with glowing runes. His helmet was open, revealing a face carved by war and augmentation. Cybernetic eyes, jaw lined with metal, voice modulator built into his throat. Varek. Dale recognized him from old bounty feeds. Former mercenary. Now syndicate warlord, ruthless, brilliant. "You've caused quite a mess, little songbird," Varek said, voice smooth as oil. "But the chase is over." Lila stepped forward. "You took my sisters. You burned our home. You think I'll come quietly?" Varek smiled. "Not quietly. Willingly. Your DNA unlocks things even we don't understand. With you, we can control the dragons, reshape the galaxy. Dragons choose their riders," she said. "Not the other way around." Varek's smile faded. "Then we'll take you broken." He raised a hand. The hunters advanced. Dale fired first. His shot struck a hunter's knee joint. The man fell, armor sparking. Chaos erupted. Lila began to sing. Not a single note this time. A cascade of tones, layered and precise. The canyon walls caught the sound, magnifying it tenfold. The air itself seemed to ripple. Hunters clutched their helmets, systems overloading. One dropped his weapon, screaming as his neural implant fried. Orion charged. Flame erupted in a wide arc, forcing the syndicate line to scatter. Claws tore through armor like paper. But Varek was ready. He activated a sonic dampener on his wrist, a device that pulsed with counter-frequency. Orion faltered, shaking his head in pain. "You're not the only one who studied the old ways," Varek shouted over the din. Dale moved fast. He triggered the flash charges. Blinding light exploded near the entrance. Hunters stumbled, disoriented. But Varek didn't flinch. He locked eyes on Dale. "You're the ex-Marine, Kerr, dishonorably discharged after Keswick." Hiding in the dirt like a rat, Dale's blood ran cold. How did he know? Leave him out of this, Lila said, voice sharp. Varek ignored her. You think protecting her makes you noble, but you're just delaying the inevitable. She belongs to us, he gestured. 2 hunters broke from the group and lunged at Dale. He fought hard, years of training in his bones, but they were augmented, faster, stronger. A blow to his rib sent him sprawling. His rifle skidded away. Before they could finish him, Lila's song shifted. A single pure note, high and clear, cut through the battle. The hunters froze. Their armor cracked. Visors shattered. They collapsed, twitching, but the effort cost her. She swayed, blood trickling from her nose. Varek seized the moment. He fired a neural net from his gauntlet. It wrapped around Lila, crackling with energy. She cried out, falling to her knees. Orion! She gasped. The dragon roared and charged, but Varek activated a second device, a resonance spike tuned to dragon neurology. Orion screeched in agony, crashing to the ground, wings flapping weakly. Dale struggled to rise. Pain shot through his side. He saw Varek stride toward Lila, pulling a collar from his belt. A control device lined with electrodes. You'll sing for us now, Varek said. Lila looked past him, straight at Dale. Her eyes held no fear, only sorrow. And something else, resolve. Then she smiled faintly and began to hum, not loud, not fierce. Just a soft, ancient lullaby, the same one she'd sung to Orion on their first night. Varek laughed. That won't save you. But Dale felt it first, the ground trembling. Not from Orion. From deeper, from below, the canyon walls began to vibrate. Dust rained from the ledges. Cracks spread through the rock. Varek frowned. What is this? Lila's voice grew stronger, weaving the lullaby into something older, something primal. The air thickened. The magnetic stone glowed faintly. Then from deep beneath the earth, a sound answered. Not one voice. Many. Low. Massive. Ancient. The ground split open near the canyon's far end. Stone shattered. Dust billowed, and from the darkness rose shapes, enormous scaled wings unfolding like storm clouds. Eyes glowed gold, red, blue, dozens of them. War dragons sleeping for centuries. Now awake, Varek staggered back. Impossible. Lila stood, the neural net falling away as if repelled by her voice. You forgot one thing, she said. Dragons don't just bond with riders, they remember their queens. The largest dragon, a beast with scales like molten bronze, lowered its head to Lila. She placed a hand on its snout, still singing. Orion rose, shaking off the pain, and joined them. The syndicate hunters panicked. They fired wildly, but their weapons were useless against creatures born of myth and fire. Varek turned to run. Dale grabbed his rifle and fired one shot, clean, precise, hitting Varek's dampener. It exploded. Lila's song surged. The awakened dragons roared as one. Flame lit the canyon in blinding white. When the fire faded, nothing remained of the syndicate but ash and twisted metal. Silence returned, deeper now. Sacred. Lila walked to Dale, helped him up. Are you all right? He nodded, breathless. You knew they were down there, I hoped, she said. The Star Weavers built sanctuaries across the rim, places where dragons could sleep until called. This canyon, it was one of them. Orion nuzzled her gently, then bowed his head to the bronze dragon, who rumbled in acknowledgement. Dale looked at the sky. The black skiffs were gone, either fled or destroyed. But he knew this wasn't over. The syndicate would send more. Others would come, governments, corporations, fanatics, all wanting what Lila was. Yet as the dragons settled around her like a living fortress, Dale felt something he hadn't in years. Hope. He touched his comm unit, the old military one he'd kept hidden. It still worked, barely. Time to call in that favor, he muttered. Lila looked at him. Who are you calling? The only people who might listen, he said. The human fleet. She didn't argue. She just nodded, and together they watched the dragons guard the dawn. The fleet came 3 days later, not with guns blazing, but with caution. 2 frigates and a command cruiser descended beyond the canyon rim, their hulls bearing the faded blue insignia of the United Earth Defense Corps. No weapons charged, no drones launched, just a single shuttle peeling off, gliding down on silent thrusters. Dale stood at the canyon mouth, Lila beside him, Orion a shadow at her back. The bronze dragon and the others had vanished into the high caves, watching but unseen. Only Orion remained visible, a statement, not a threat. The shuttle landed in a cloud of dust. The ramp lowered. A woman stepped out, tall and sharp-eyed, uniform crisp despite the journey. Captain Elise Morgan. Dale hadn't seen her since Keswick. She'd been his intel officer, one of the few who believed him when he reported the betrayal. She stopped 10 paces away, hands open at her sides. "Dale Kerr, you look like hell. Feel like it too," he said. Her eyes flicked to Lila, then to Orion. She didn't flinch. Didn't reach for a weapon. "Report said you had company. Didn't say it included legends. They're real," Dale said. "I can see that." She stepped closer. "Why call us in? You know the Corps doesn't do rescue ops anymore." "This isn't a rescue," Lila said softly. "It's an offer." Elise turned to her fully. "You're the one they're hunting?" "I'm the one they fear," Lila corrected. "Because I'm not alone anymore." She raised her hand. A low hum filled the air. From the canyon walls, dragons emerged. Silent, massive, eyes gleaming. Not attacking. Not retreating. Simply present. Elise exhaled slowly. "Stars above." "The syndicate will keep coming," Lila said. "Not just them. Others will hear. They'll see dragons as weapons, as property. I don't want war, but I won't be caged again." Elise studied her. "What do you want, sanctuary? Recognition. A place where my kind and theirs can exist without fear. The Corps doesn't grant asylum to unknowns." "Then make us known," Dale said. "You saw what happened here. You saw the syndicate wiped out by sound and scale. That's not a threat to humanity. That's an ally." Elise was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. "There's a new accord being drafted. Human-alien cooperation. Expanded rights. If I present this, if I show them dragons bow to a human voice, it could change everything." "It will," Lila said. Elise turned to Dale. "And you staying with her?" "Yeah," he said. "I think I am." Back at the prefab, reclaimed, not abandoned, work began. The fleet sent engineers, not soldiers. They helped reinforce the structure, install clean power from portable fusion cells, and set up a secure comms array. Lila showed them how to grow food in the dead soil. Orion let the tech scan him, though he kept one eye open, always watching. News spread fast. Within weeks, hollow feeds across the rim showed images of Lila standing beside dragons, calm and unafraid. Some called her a savior, others a danger. But the Human Council, pressured by Elise's testimony and undeniable proof, granted her protected status under the new accord. She wasn't a specimen. She was a sovereign. Dale watched it all from the porch, sipping real coffee brewed from beans the fleet brought as a gift. One evening, Leela joined him. She wore a simple tunic, hair loose, no hood. For the first time, she looked at peace. "They're building a delegation center near Bramble Hollow," she said, "to teach others about the old ways. To find more like me, if any remain. You'll lead it only if you help me," he smiled. "I'm just a mechanic. You're the man who opened his door when no one else would." They sat in silence as the twin moons rose. But peace never lasts long on the edge of known space. A month later, a distress call crackled over the comms. Not from Syndicate, not from pirates, from a deep-range science vessel, USS Marlowe, drifting near the Keswick debris field. Their last message was fragmented. Something woke up. Not human. Not machine. Singing. Dale recognized the coordinates instantly. Keswick. Lila listened to the recording, her face pale. "That's not my song. It's older. Darker." Orion growled, low and uneasy. Elise contacted them the next day. "We're sending a recovery team. But we need someone who understands resonance, who can tell if it's a threat or a call." Lila looked at Dale. "We have to go." He didn't argue. Keswick haunted him. Maybe it was time to face it. The journey took 6 days aboard a modified Corvette. Orion rode in the cargo bay, curled around Lila's gear like a guardian. Dale spent most of the trip reviewing old mission logs, searching for anything he'd missed. When they arrived, the Keswick field was worse than he remembered. Shattered hulls floated in silent graveyard orbits. Radiation warnings blinked on every screen. The Marlowe hung dead in the center, hull breached, lights out. They boarded in pressure suits. Inside, the ship was frozen, literally. Ice coated the walls, but no bodies, no signs of struggle. Then they found the lab. In the center of the room, suspended in a stasis field, was a sphere of black crystal. It pulsed faintly, emitting a tone so low it vibrated in their bones. Lila approached slowly. "It's a seed," she whispered. A starweaver seed. But corrupted. By what? By silence. By forgetting. When my people vanished, some of our creations went dormant, unstable. This one, it's trying to wake something. Something that shouldn't wake. As if in answer, the sphere cracked. A sound erupted. Not a song, but a scream made of static and sorrow. The ship groaned. Systems flickered. Orion, outside in the cargo bay, roared through the comms. "We have to destroy it," Dale said. "No," Lila said. "Destruction will scatter the resonance. It could infect other systems, other worlds, and then what?" She closed her eyes. "I have to sing it to sleep. Properly this time." She stepped into the stasis field. The cold didn't touch her. She placed her hands on the sphere and began to sing. A lullaby older than colonies, older than ships. Gentle, firm, full of memory. The sphere pulsed slower. The static faded. But then, a new sound joined hers. From deep in the debris field, something answered. Not a dragon, not human. A voice made of metal and void. The Keswick anomaly, the thing Dale's unit had been sent to investigate before the betrayal, was still there. And it knew Lila's voice. Alarms blared. The corvette's captain ordered immediate retreat. "Lila, we have to go," Dale shouted. "Almost done," she gasped, blood trickling from her ears. With a final note, the sphere went dark. Inert. She collapsed. Dale caught her, dragging her back to the airlock as the ship shuddered. Orion met them at the ramp. Wings flared, ready to fight the unseen. They escaped just as the debris field began to swirl, pulled by an invisible force. Back at Varelli's 9, Lila slept for 2 days. When she woke, she looked older, wearier, but her eyes were clear. "It's not over," she told Dale. "The anomaly. It's tied to the first Starweavers, to a mistake they made. I have to find the origin. Before it finds me." He sat beside her. "Then we find it together." She touched his hand. "You don't have to." "I know," he said. "But I want to." Outside, Orion basked in the red sun, tail curled around the prefab like a promise. The war wasn't just against slavers or syndicates anymore. It was against silence, against forgetting. And for the first time, they had a chance to win. Months passed. The prefab on Varelli's 9 grew, not just in size but in meaning. What was once a bunker became a home, then a haven, then something more. With help from the fleet and volunteers from Bramble Hollow, Dale expanded the structure using salvaged hull plates and reinforced polymer. They built a wide porch, a garden fed by Lila's strange irrigation methods, and a high stone perch where Orion could sun himself and watch the horizon. Deeper in the canyon, the awakened dragons carved their own roosts, silent, watchful, but no longer hidden. Lila no longer wore a hood. She walked through the settlement with her head high, teaching children how to listen to the wind, how to coax life from barren soil, how to speak without words. Some called her teacher, others, rider. She accepted neither title fully. She simply was. Dale stopped fixing drones. Instead, he trained a new kind of unit, human-dragon liaison teams. Not soldiers, guardians. They learned to read dragon moods, to understand the shifts in scale color, the meaning behind a rumble or a wing flick. Orion tolerated them, sometimes even allowing a brave soul to touch his snout. But he never bowed to anyone but Lila. The Human Council sent envoys, scientists, diplomats. All came with questions. Lila answered only what she chose. She showed them seeds that bloomed in vacuum, songs that mended fractured metal, and the way dragons could purify poisoned water with their breath. Slowly, suspicion turned to respect, then to awe. But the real test came when the Keswick anomaly stirred again. This time, it didn't whisper. It broadcast. A signal pulsed across the rim, a harmonic frequency that scrambled comms, fried unshielded circuits, and made sensitive minds bleed from the ears. Ships vanished near dead zones. Colonies reported nightmares that felt real. The council panicked. Some demanded Lila be contained in case she was the source. Elise stood before them in the chamber, voice steady. "She's not the cause. She's the cure." And Lila knew it was time. She didn't wait for permission. She gathered Orion, packed her seed pouch, and met Dale at the landing pad where the Corvette waited. "You sure about this?" he asked, adjusting the straps on his pack. "The anomaly isn't evil," she said. "It's lost. It was built by the first Starweavers as a guardian for the core archive, a vault of all their knowledge. But when they vanished, it went mad with loneliness. It's been calling for someone to remember it. And you're going to answer, 'I have to.' Or it will keep tearing the rim apart, searching." They flew for 12 days following the signal's echo through dead systems and silent nebulae. Orion rode in the hold, calm but alert. Dale studied star charts, cross-referencing old myths with fleet data. Slowly, a location emerged, a planet with no name, orbiting a black hole's edge, shielded by gravitational tides. They called it Valen. Landing was near impossible. The atmosphere crackled with static. The ground was glass smooth, as if melted and cooled 1,000 times. In the center of the continent stood a spire, black, spiraling, humming with the same frequency as the Keswick sphere. As they approached, the ground trembled, not from quake, but from awakening. Shapes rose from the glass plains, not dragons, not machines, constructs of light and memory shaped like humans but hollow, singing in broken harmonies. "Echoes," Lila whispered. "Remnants of the first weavers." They didn't attack. They watched. Lila walked forward alone. Dale wanted to follow, but Orion blocked his path with a gentle nudge. This was her path. At the base of the spire, she placed her hands on the surface and began to sing. Not a lullaby, not a weapon, a memory. She sang of starlight on water, of dragons nesting in nebulae, of hands planting seeds in ash, of doors opening in the rain. The spire responded. Light bloomed from its core. The echoes knelt, deep within something uncoiled, a presence vast and ancient, weary beyond measure. "You remember?" it said, not in words, but in feeling. "I do," she answered. "Show me you are worthy." She didn't prove with power. She offered a seed, one she'd grown on Varelli's 9, green and alive. She pressed it into a crack in the spire. "Life where there was none," she said. "That is our promise." The spire pulsed. The static faded. The signal across the rim went silent. Not dead, but sleeping. The anomaly was healed. On the journey home, Lila slept most of the way. Orion curled around her in the hold like a shield. Dale watched the stars, lighter than he'd felt in years. When they returned, the council was waiting, not with weapons, but with an offer, a new order. The Starweaver Covenant. Lila as its voice, Dale as its shield, dragons as its guardians, not under human rule. Beside it, she accepted, but only if it was open to all who wished to remember, not just humans. Elf bloods, if any remained, even the echoes if they chose to return. Back at the homestead, life settled into a new rhythm. The garden flourished. Vines climbed the walls, blooming with flowers that glowed at night. Children from Bramble Hollow came to learn. Some even tried to sing to Orion. He never answered, but sometimes he blinked slowly, which Lila said was his version of approval. One evening, as the twin moons rose and the dragons circled high above like living constellations, Dale sat on the porch with a cup of tea. Lila joined him, barefoot, hair loose, wearing a simple dress woven from plant fiber and dragon scale thread. She leaned against him, quiet for a long time. Then she whispered, "I can still cook. I can still clean." Dale smiled. "You don't have to be quiet anymore." And for the first time, she laughed, soft at first, then full and bright, echoing off the canyon walls. Orion lifted his head and rumbled in harmony. High above, the bronze dragon answered with a cry that shook the stars. In that moment, Dale knew. He hadn't just opened his door that rainy night. He'd opened a future, and it was more alive than he ever dreamed.